Welcome to the Porsche Club Insider, your one stop for all things Porsche and PCA. Here's your host, Vu Nguyen, and the Insider crew.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 142. We are in a new town for me. I've never even known this town existed. We had just finished setting up for Unstock, which is in Corona, California, but we're sitting in a hotel in Norco, California.
Yeah. A lot of horses here. I ran on a horse trail this morning.
Did it say the sign say horse capital or horse county?
Horsetown.
Horsetown.
Is Norco like Soho, but it's north of Corona?
I don't think this
Norco?
place reminds me of Soho in any way possible.
Yeah.
I
would have to agree on that.
Right.
But I did see horses. I saw horses on the trails as we were coming
Yeah, there are
through.
horses.
They
and
did not
there's
disappoint for
Yep.
their
the
name.
stuff that the horses
And
leave.
it also is kind of dusty, like the Wild Wild West, like when we drove through the
yeah.
neighborhoods.
We didn't see an Elmer's glue factory, so
Yeah.
This is the Wild West.
I'm anticipating hats for tomorrow's event.
We're already off
Cowboy
track.
hats.
We're already off track. So let me just say, Manny, Damon, myself are here at the table. We have a very special guest, many would say a photographer extraordinaire, a dear friend of PCA, definitely a motorhead, and something you might not know. I hope I can say this, but aren't you like a ex-supermodel or something like that? Mr. Michael Allan Ross.
Supermodel.
I think so.
before Wahlberg, there is Michael Allan Ross.
I
True,
think
right?
I think that is
Yeah.
true.
Somebody had to
You
do
said
that.
model earlier, and now it's a supermodel?
I think
Oh, my
supermodel.
gosh.
I think supermodel. But before
Yeah.
we get into the story, I just want to thank everyone for listening. If you aren't currently a PCA member and own a Porsche, grab that VIN, head over to PCA.org, and get yourself set up with a PCA membership. If you're looking for a Porsche, we have the test drive program. Again, head to PCA.org and set yourself up with a test drive membership. So, Manny, you've been on the road and you got to drive a Carrera T.
Yes, so by the time you hear this embargo is lifted, the Carrera T, which Porsche is reminding us actually came in 1969, the first T. And for those of you who wonder what the connection is, so the Carrera T is the enthusiast Porsche, they call it. It's the lighter weight Porsche. And the 911T, when it came out in 69, the body was actually lighter than the 911S, which is why they used the 911T body and stuck an S drivetrain and called it the ST back in the day. So a little bit of trivia. But anyways, Porsche has had that T line, even extends to the Macan T, and they take a little bit of weight off that. But I was really looking forward to this primarily because about a month earlier I got to drive the previous generation 911T on the track, which was an incredible chassis. We were very impressed with it. And so the big changes were no longer is PDK a choice of transmission. This is manual only. I guess they want to show how hardcore and serious they are about it being an enthusiast Porsche, PDK only. And they dropped the 7-speed, made it a 6-speed. So it dropped the gear. Not the same 6-speed as the GT3, but they realized they got, as they said, suggestions from their customers, not complaints, suggestions that the feel wasn't there with the 7-speed. So their aim was to make it a more engaging drive with the 6-speed. So they used the a lot of the cables, a lot of the bushings from the GT3 to come close to mimicking that feel for shifting, which I think they came pretty close to do. You know, some clutches take a while. You know, they get used to like where it picks up point at. Somewhere. You got to go midway down the pedal. Somewhere instantaneous. This took a little bit of getting used to, but it was
it brand new, or is it?
It's
they
well,
just took the gear out.
They took one gear out. Yeah, and they changed the gearing. I believe they changed the gearing on it. So it's definitely a sportier drive. 5th and 6th are still overdrive gears. They made rear axle steering standard on the car.
Nice.
And the big news is they brought the cabriolet as an option. And I asked them about that, and they said, we wanted to do it last generation, but they, I believe they didn't have time or space on the assembly line. Kind of like what we heard about the Speedster back a few 911 generations ago. So This was something that they had planned it, and they take about a 30% take rate, do you think, on the Cabriolet? So it was a blasted drive. It was everything you expected to be. I did not notice much of a difference with, I don't know, Damon, have you ever driven a manual with Sport Plus and Sport and been able to feel the difference between the two?
I have, and thinking back with the transmission.
PDK, yeah.
With PDK, yeah, but I've not really paid attention to the manual.
Yeah,
not really.
I couldn't. I kept on playing around with it, seeing where I could feel it.
Did you enjoy the rev matching?
Oh,
yeah.
Who would not enjoy that?
Right.
Well, that's what you feel, right?
That is
that is awesome, and the anti-stall, because as I was getting used to the where the transmission picked up, I could feel a stall, and as soon as I felt the stall, it would like stick it in neutral and bring it back up. It wouldn't let me stall it.
Really?
That's very
So
cool.
it didn't jump forward?
No, and it did it for like a millisecond, and then it caught it. And very nice features. You don't look like the
newbie?
the newbie stalling your car when everyone's looking at you, expecting you to do a burnout or something, and you stall it. So it was a very cool ride. We drove the Cabriolet, and Porsche does a pretty good job of hiding weight in their cars. It's not, I'm sure if I drove like a 3.2 right next to it, I'd probably feel the weight. But driving a previous generation and the next generation,
What about chassis flex?
no, none.
Tight as a drum?
As far as we were pushing it, they picked some pretty curvy roads in northern Georgia to drive. It was, no.
And I like how fast it is, and you can put it up and down while you're somewhat on the move. You can't put it down at 60 miles an hour, but
No, for what's essentially a base 911, although you feel bad calling it a base like you're missing out on something. It's an incredible car, but with it also comes a price.
yeah.
They said the Carrera T attracts a buyer who's 5 years younger than on average for the brand. But like the Cabriolet, the one we drove, was $172,000.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. $172,000 for a Carrera T.
a Carrera T Cabriolet.
Carrera T
That's a base price?
Cabriolet.
That's the that has some options on it.
Yeah.
But the base price is $147,000.
That's
For
like
the Cabriolet.
GT3 money not
That's
too long
pretty
ago.
strong, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
I do have an observation about this transmission and, what's offered on the Cabriolet. So it's like musical chairs with whether we get a manual or not with some of these performance cars. So 991 GT3, PDK only, and then the .2, 991.2 you had the option for a manual.
Right.
And then we had the Spider RS is PDK only, but that should probably be the manual car, isn't it? I'm pretty sure the Spider RS was manual only or it's PDK only. But why not give it a manual?
Spider RS is PDK only.
It's
Right.
PDK only.
Yeah.
And the GT4S is PDK only, but the last Carrera T had both options, but now you can't get a manual for the Cabriolet, but you can get... it is the manual, but you can't get a PDK for the Cabriolet.
You can in the Carrera, but not in the T.
See how hard
I'm
my
sorry,
brain
but
is working right
This whole
now?
thing sounds
about-
like a shell game. It's like somebody sitting in the background just going,
So think of the T as the enthusiast dream
Yeah.
car. So the enthusiast wants a manual transmission.
Yeah.
For some reason, they have a little thing that says MT next to the shifter, which I don't know who thought that. Somehow, I think somebody who wasn't involved in the planning thought of putting the little MT on it, and they said, "Well, he's the nephew or something of somebody important," so they agreed to put it on there. Because why do you need to put MT manual transmission
shifter
on
alone couldn't tell
just
you.
in case exactly just the third pedal isn't tipping you off?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a. I think from what my experiences have been with people who bought these Ts, they were waiting for any allocation of the Carrera line. And when the T came up, they were told either you can take this or keep on waiting for your S.
Wow.
And they were like, I'll take the T, which is not that much of a compromise. You're not giving up. You're giving up some horsepower, but you're also getting the enthusiast Porsche.
I'd rather have the T than an S.
Damon,
But probably
I
a
think
GTS over a T sort of thing,
it'd
if I had the
be
money.
interesting, because you are talking a lighter weight.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
it's little stuff they do to take away the extra weight. But yeah, there'll be an article in Panorama. We'll see how my in-car video I filmed did.
You had a factoid about options. Can you talk about that?
Yes, he told me that the curb weight, if there's any options that have a 30% take rate, 30% of people have chosen it, they have to include it in the curb weight. So this is probably, and I thought it was interesting because Porsche gave us a weight with all the lightweight options on it, then the stated curb weight. So of course, if you chose like sport buckets, lighter weight, you didn't get the rear seats, little things, and it was about 50 pounds lighter than the curb weight because people take certain options and whatever their weight is and now factored in.
So what was the lightest weight you could possibly make a Carrera T?
Let me pull it up here. It was, I think it was about 40 pounds. So 3283 was the latest you could get. If you got all the lightweight options.
All the lightweight options.
And the curb weight is
3316.
32. I think that's for a modern day car. That's
with all the safety items they're
with all
forced
the
to
safety
put in there.
That's well done.
Yeah, like I said, and they hide it. At no point did you think, oh, this is such a pig or something.
Yeah.
Like if my 964 weighed 3,200 pounds,
You'd feel it.
You'd feel it.
Right.
Are there any visual cues other than a T placed somewhere that you step into
they
and
use
go like,
palladium or palladium gray accents. So that's a giveaway on the mirrors.
Right.
pretty sure it
'Cause I'm
also
always
says
looking for
Carrera T on the
visual
side,
things.
too.
Right.
Well, I think he said other than the T.
Yeah. Sorry, I had to point out the obvious.
Well, since you're talking about clutches, I am very happy to give you a quick update. I mentioned that
So we're moving from 2025 back to 1959.
we're going all the way back to 1959. So I was hoping that I could figure out what was going on with my slipping clutch, and someone had suggested, Mr. Bill and a couple other people said, you just need to adjust your clutch. And I'm like, man, that would be incredible if that's the case. But what are the odds that adjusting a clutch would restore the bite of my clutch on my 59 356? And anyways, I put it up on my rack, looked underneath, and it's very simple. There's a lever for the clutch assembly. There's a cable that is connected to your clutch, runs through the center of the car, comes out this thing called a Bowden cable, and then the Bowden cable has a like a clevis pin attached to the clutch release fork thing, and two nuts, a 17 millimeter nut and a 19 millimeter nut. Backed it out. There was tension on the spring for the clutch fork, and Mr. Bill was like, you should be able to move that spring. There shouldn't be that much tension on it. So I just backed it up enough so that the spring just could barely wiggle. It still had a little tension, but just barely wiggle. And I sat back in the car, and my friction point went from the very top of the pedal. Now I had some play, and the friction point was like almost right in the center of the clutch travel.
Very nice.
Yeah. And I'm like, no way. Tell me this is not all it took.
Yeah.
Backed it out of the driveway. Man, now I can bury the
Now he has
throttle.
money to spend.
Explain why don't we have to do that with clutches anymore?
Self-adjusting.
because we have color television now. And
Yeah, right. No, I think you were saying though self-adjusting because they're hydraulic clutches, not cable operated.
Oh yeah,
right?
I mean that too. I mean
Yeah.
hydraulic clutches, and but yeah. So I'm very happy that I can use all the power that's the engine. It's not slipping. It was like a totally different drive, and so since I was having such a great run in the garage, decided to throw on a couple of the LED bulb replacements, and that was kind of interesting. That wasn't as much of a success because I took out incandescent bulbs. I changed the LED flasher, and it would blink with the incandescent bulbs, but then I put the LED ones. For some reason, they wouldn't light up. And then I was like, man, I know all the power's running. And again, I'm not sure if you know this, but my car is a 6-volt system. So Mr. Bill's like, oh, it's probably because it's not sending enough of the power to the bulbs. I'm like, but it's an LED bulb. It should like flicker no matter what. Mr. Bill literally sat in the car, went to the switch, and just went in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, twisted around, flick, 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 and probably like 10 times later, boom, let there be lights.
There you go.
That's all
There
it
you go.
took. It works.
I wish things were that easy all the time. But
How often do you talk about Porsche fixes where it
A self-fixing Porsche.
a self-fixing Porsche in 1959.
Well, the thing, I've got a 6-volt in my old Ford, so that you need, if you're asking, getting the proper advice is key from someone that knows about 6-volt systems. So,
well,
I would just advise you in the future, like
they're all 6-volt cars
because
basically.
it's a lot less power, and it's just it's
more finicky.
efficient. It's just
How do you give yourself if you have to give yourself a battery jump? How do you do that on a 6-volt?
2 guys on the back bumper and push.
and pop the clutch.
But
I thought you
you're-
cut a battery in half. And then, no.
You have to tell people, like if you call Haggerty, you call AAA, you tell them it's 6-volt. A lot of things now have. I even have a trickle charger that that
6-volt setting.
automatically knows it's a 6-volt.
I was
and you
reading,
can't mess it up.
like if you're in a parking lot or something and your battery's dead, you can't push it. And the way it was described to me, and maybe someone listening can elaborate, but they were saying you need 2 people to do it. And you can hook it up to a 12-volt. But as soon as it cranks, you have to have the second person has to basically take it off
And
really
you
right
have
away.
to make sure that everything is off in the car. There can't be any
Because you're gonna blow. all
exactly. You can't be any lights on. Can't be the radio. Can't be on by mistake. All that stuff's got to be
I just thought to myself, I could imagine my wife trying to explain to her the stress
Right.
level she would
It's
be
like
at.
you got one shot.
Yeah. No thanks.
Yeah.
No thanks. Well, anyways, want to thank Mr. Bill, and the 356 registry community has also really supported me in this in this new adventure. So I want to thank them. I'm learning a lot because none of the instructions of putting these LED things in said wiggle switch a lot of times until it's bright, right? Like how do you know to do that? And then the final one is I'm putting in the third brake light. And I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast before, but I was going to run a brake wire from the master cylinder up front all the way to the back. But apparently Porsche already thought of that because there was a ignition line or something like that behind the gauge cluster that goes all the way to the back to the car already. But it was a line prepared for a car that had the Carrera motor. And so there's a spare line. So you just run the brake from the master cylinder to this spare line behind the dash. And then it's already ran through the back of the car. And there should be a pigtail at the bottom right of the engine bay that I just unfurl and
So wait a
connect.
minute, they ran an extra line
Yes,
on a car that they put the key on the left-hand side, the save wire.
they did.
And then they're running a extra
Yep.
wire for a car whose engine they'll never use.
Correct.
Doesn't seem like Porsche.
Yeah. So again,
Fantastic.
how would you know that unless you had 356 friends?
Right. Yeah.
So pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into you, sir, Mr. X Supermodel.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Okay.
I see the first bullet point here is life before photography.
Life before photography. Yeah. I've had several.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a lucky guy.
So how'd you,
different lives?
I mean, before you went all into photography, what were you doing?
I've gotten used to this kind of a elevator pitch on this whole thing because I have a kind of a crazy previous. I was a full-time musician for 25 years.
Oh.
And singing on a Chevy commercial in New York City, and the producer's wife walks in and goes, "Have you ever thought about being in a commercial?" I said, "Well, I'm singing on one right now." She goes, "No, like being in the commercial." I'm like, "No, but maybe you can help me out." And next thing I know, she hooked me up with a couple of agents in New York, and I found out what it was like because I was like, I'm not model type. I'm not tall. I've got a funny nose. I've got all
You're a
these.
good-looking
I'm
fella.
not, but it's
Man,
not.
you're
that,
being hard on yourself.
yeah. Well, I have to look at myself. On
Maybe
a
it was
regular
nice.
basis, right?
Were you singing in the band, or were you
Yeah,
just-
singer, guitar
So
player.
maybe she was just saying you shouldn't sing. you
Maybe.
should just be,
Oh, right.
be behind.
You might want to think of it. You got a great voice for. Yeah, you got a great voice, great face for radio. That's what.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
So I started. Next thing I know, I was doing print work, and I started doing TV stuff. And I was with Buckwald in New York, and I was with various McDonald Richards and various commercial print agencies. I found out what that was. What that is real life people that are usually promoting products. It's not about the clothes. It's not about this. So I did stuff, American Express, AT&T, Coca-Cola, Lexus, Chevrolet, all these different things that people were selling. Panasonic, megahertz phones. Remember those? my face just started getting plastered all over the place, and I did it for a long time. And
So that means you must have a trustworthy face, right?
at,
You must. I mean, because when people
well,
are asking you to
here's how
pitch
I
your
made
product-
a living. You want to see it?
I don't know.
That's
It
the
does-
That was
look.
it. It was like,
That's
just
the
give
look.
it the.
Manny, work on that.
I'd
It's
buy,
like-
I'd buy him a beer at a bar.
It's like I've made the right decision. I married the right woman. I did the right stuff. It was so unlike my real life. It was like this completely opposite of my real
So-
life because everything was totally a mess.
So back up. So you connected with an agency, and then did you have like headshots made?
Yeah,
and then,
as a musician, you had a headshot because
Already,
people would
okay,
go, "Oh,
yeah.
you're playing this club tonight." Blah
Yeah.
blah blah. Right. So I just provided that, and then it was about, well, we need you to go get this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, okay.
did you have to audition, or did they just say, "Okay, we got
Oh.
your gig, and you go"?
No, you would go in and you would go. Some
And give
some
them
were
that
direct.
look?
Some were direct bookings.
Oh, okay.
Right, and some were out of their book or something like that. They would you would create a composite. They'd send in.
I
a
can see it
composite.
working. Manny's
Yeah.
thinking of a second career.
Manny, I think because
Chubby bald guys,
I
if they
really
become
got
a
to the
hit.
point. I got to the point where I marketed anything I possibly could. If somebody said, "Can you do this?" I'm like, "Yes, I can."
Yes, I can.
It's like not a problem. And I did TV commercials. I ended up, case in point, ended up doing precision driving in TV commercials because I said I could. And it was like, they were like, okay. In fact, I was booked and I was shooting something, and the guy comes over and he goes, "So you're the precision driver, right? You're the guy?" I'm like,
Uh-huh.
"Yeah." So I said, "How'd you know?" I didn't say yes.
Oh.
I said, "How'd you know?" He says, "Well, you bring the car back to the exact same place every time. I don't know how you do
Genius.
it." And I was
Great
like,
driver.
"I can make money doing that. How much does that pay?" So I was doing that, and I did soap operas. I did stuff on All My Children. I
What?
was,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
All
I
My
was-
Children.
Yeah,
Bigly.
yeah.
I see. I told you, ex supermodel,
Yeah.
superstar.
Yeah,
Hollywood, all
but I
same.
was like 1 week I was the UPS guy, and next week I ran the gym, and the next week I was getting in a fight with somebody in a bar, and I'd always have a
So you're
different.
living in California at this point with doing all
New
this
York
stuff?
City.
New York
I was
Yeah,
about to
City.
say,
yeah,
is it
yeah.
New York or is it
So-
Hollywood? Right?
Yeah, but
New York.
All My Children was New York.
Oh.
Yeah, so a lot of them were, and then a lot of them gravitated out here. So
So was
but
that
back in the day.
consistent enough where you weren't singing in the band anymore?
It got to the point where I couldn't work during the week because I had to be on set and look
Be
alert.
bright-eyed.
Yeah, I
Oh,
couldn't be
yeah.
at a diner at 4:00
Right.
in the morning sipping coffee, and still be out from the night before. So there became a transition where I had to, pull back on one and just go full time on the other. And then so the whole time I'm working with these incredibly talented, creative people. They are just brilliant. And I'm getting paid to walk in the door and pay attention. Everybody else is interested in what's for lunch. And I'm going like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, he's using that bounce light over that way to do. Why are you doing that? And my father gave me a camera when I was 9, and he gave me a guitar. And I've made a living with both of them in my life.
Wow.
So this thing, I sat there and I was just like paying attention. And then I started doing still life photography, and shooting for different clients, Anna Sui, Rochas of Paris, Gucci, different, little tiny
Sorry,
movements.
when you
of-
said still life, I just remembered back to middle school, and I'm like trying to take a photo of like a basket of fruit. Not that kind of still life.
well, yeah,
But how'd you make that connection going from behind the camera or in front of the camera to behind? Did you mention, oh, by the way, I do photography on the side, or as a hobby? Or
well, it's the type of thing where you just kind of go, yeah, I could. Once again, yeah, I could do that. It's like, hey, do you think you could? Oh, okay, I could do that. And then next thing you know, somebody's
sure, it's
like,
an
"Oh,
opportunity.
would you mind doing that for me?" Yeah, and it's like, okay, it's you can get yourself in a lot of trouble that way. But I found a way to. I didn't hurt anybody.
What year? What year was it when?
I wasn't doing heart surgery,
What year was it when you went from in front of the lens to behind the lens? Roughly, was it the 80s?
80s.
80s. Okay,
Yeah.
so in the 80s, it was
Late
still
80s.
film,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
when you get to behind the lens, and you have 18, 24, 36 shots in a roll, like you can't just click and kind of figure it out.
Right, yeah.
Right. So you have to take photos, process them, and then figure out what you did wrong. That's
Right.
not a quick process. So how did you learn f-stop? How did you learn depth of field, rules of thirds, and all that stuff?
You make a lot of mistakes, burn a lot of film,
Burn a lot of film.
film, pay attention, ask questions, ask a lot of questions. What did I do wrong? I mean, the people at the lab would tell you what you did wrong, right? What did I do? You want to do this. And it's just like anything else. You mentioned something before about having smart people around you. Hire really great people and ask people that you really enjoy their work. And, it's a tough world because any shooter will tell you that it's a real lone wolf kind of world, and getting people to give you a solid answer sometimes can be tricky, because there's only so many people doing what you're doing, especially the more focused your work is. So that's kind of a tough thing sometimes. But I've always had the approach of trying to never be like that, and trying to be as open as possible to other people, because that's how I got along, and that's how I came. People took time every now and then and give you a little nugget here and a little nugget there, and then you take those nuggets and you make them your own. But wouldn't have been able to do anything that I do without someone else's help.
You mentioned the camera and the guitar. Where did motors and gears come
I've been a
into
car guy since I was 4 years old.
play? Okay, so
here's the trigger on that, and so I went out to buy a Porsche. I was looking at them. I looked at this car. I was like, "That's cool." It's black 911 SC. It was in a local paper. I went to drive it and met the guy and walked through his house, and every room had a drum set, a full drum kit in it. Every room. Wow. Like the kitchen had a drum kit in it. And I go, "So, I guess you play drums, huh?" And he goes, "Yeah." I'm like, "Professionally?" I'm like, "Either this or that, or this, you got a really bad habit here, because that stuff's expensive." And he goes, "Yeah." I go, "Who do you play for?" He goes, "Joan Jett."
What?
So it's Tommy from Joan Jett. He's still her drummer. And
We saw Joan Jett last summer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Tommy sold me my 911, and he said, "You have to join the Porsche Club of America.
How cool is
I'm going to
that?
pay for your first year."
Well, shout out to Tommy.
Tommy.
Yeah, right?
How'd I know?
Wow.
He was at Meriwether, Maryland.
So
Joan Jett played. Yeah.
what happens is he puts me in touch with somebody at NNJR, Marlis Tosin, who's gone now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
She says, "Hi, so happy to hear from you," and blah, 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 da, 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 hear wonderful things. Why don't you come on Wednesday? We're having our slide night.
That sounds like them. Absolutely.
And
That's
that
all
also
photography.
dates what time it was, just bring your slide. So I literally went out and shot my car in the morning, went in, lived in Jersey at the time, went into New York, went to the lab, was doing it, and they're like, "Hey, 4:00 there, you picking this film up?" I'm like, "Oh yeah." So I went over and grabbed the box of slides, and I drove out to their meeting, and I literally just opened the box there and went da, 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 da. And Dominic Miliano was running the slideshow. That was his annual thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I said, "Well, here's a couple slides," and they put it in there. Well, at the end of the night, I walk out with this trophy that has this big, bowl, and it's got the name of everybody that's won the trophy before. And
Wow.
and I'm like, these people are nuts. These people are crazy about their cars,
You got
just
our
like
audience
I am,
laughing
right?
over there.
So I was the audience of one. There we go.
You're not supposed to say that.
They don't know it's an audience of one. We just say audience.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Yes, this is a live show. everybody.
He just woke up.
Do we really need to use the flashing applause sign? Yeah. So it was it was a great epiphany. It was just the moment where it was like, hey, this is kind of a cool thing, and that's what really was the trigger. And I met John Paderek. I don't know if you know this, but John has very artistic background.
Yeah.
Also guitars.
Yeah.
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 And
I had no idea you had this East Coast connection.
oh yeah, he keeps trying to get his hands on my Stratocaster.
Oh, that sounds like him. Because he doesn't have enough.
Right, exactly. But he was another gentleman that was very helpful with me in terms of encouraging me. And I don't know if you remember this, but in 1999, you went to parade in Montreal.
Yeah.
I did the posters
Really?
for the Montre Blanc thing. Remember, there was a color one, and then there was a limited edition black and white one that we did up there.
I'm gonna have to go
Yeah.
dig that up and
I'll have to pull
take
it
a
out.
look.
Pull
Yeah.
that up and throw it
Yeah.
on the YouTube.
People right
exactly.
now are pulling those out from under the bed.
Yeah.
It all looked
Saying-
black and white to me, but it's pretty cool.
Right.
$1 million. I know what I got.
Right, and it was several people in the club that just encouraged that. Dominic and John, and now every time I see John now, I just walk up to it. This is all your fault. It's all your fault. He goes, what?
Well, isn't it a cool way that you kind of landed in our world, right? And it's your life has just revolved around it and the people that you meet through it.
It's
why I love
just
that.
been incredible. As you know, I've gone on to I shoot all kinds of things now. I've shot for all kinds of different manufacturers in different places and different opportunities, and the lens has brought me to some wonderful places. But it was really this transition when I married my passion for automobiles to my passion for photography together. That was the thing that solidified everything.
And what was the first gig that was that combination?
That's going to be tough for me. I don't know.
There's got to be one.
Yeah.
Even if it's not a Porsche, there's something. I know you're a hot rod
You know what?
person, too.
It was a guy who he got one of the first. The first time someone was paying me.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
go.
Someone had
Absolutely.
it gotten a 993 turbo, and nobody. He's like, I went and I shot only black and white.
Oh,
I shot only black and white on the car, and some of those images are still. The car is so iconic. The images are still. You can create anything, a piece of sculpture, a piece of jewelry. When something comes together and it's right forever.
Yeah.
And I'll still look back at some of those images and go, "Wow."
How did I
Now,
do that?
how did he?
Yeah.
How did he commission you to do this? How did he hear about you?
Friend of a friend kind of thing.
And say, I have this cool car. I want to pay you to shoot my car.
Oh yeah, that's how it goes. There's nothing like the word of mouth.
Yeah.
I wonder, when it comes to shooting cars, have you done more jobs like that? Just personal projects of cars that people love, or is it more like
it
side?
started that way, and
yeah.
it was just doing things like and I was doing other things, and then I would go shoot a car or shoot my own car and shoot this and do that, and just then I start promoting it, and you start promoting it. And here's let me show you this, and let me show you. I remember sending a portfolio to Richard Barron when he was in Newport Beach.
Yeah.
At the road and track right next to Hoag Hospital years ago. And now, fast forward decades later, I have the opportunity to work with him on a regular basis. And it's just it's just so wild, because when I look back at that, he was like, hey, great stuff, kid.
Yeah.
But it was a time he's like, I'm just trying to keep the guys I have busy, but there'll be an opportunity someday.
He didn't lie.
Hey, he didn't lie.
He didn't lie.
He didn't lie. I didn't lie. It just had to be a little more patient.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. It's a lot about just, I didn't plan this. It's like, hey, I'm going to be.
Hard work plus meeting the right people.
Well, yeah,
luck.
a lot of times, a friend of mine says, I would say, yeah, sometimes you just got to get lucky, with a shot or whatever. And my friend says, I don't believe in luck. I'm like, how can you not believe in luck? He says, luck is what we call rewards for hard work.
There we
Yeah,
go.
and that's
a good
absolutely true, because right before you said that, when you were talking about that, I'm like, if you've ever been on a photo shoot with Allan Ross, you literally see him on the ground, in the mud, in the grass, on the gravel. His cameras get dusty and dirty, and to get that right shot. And it's not luck that you got that shot, because you earned it and you went down low and dirty to get it.
And you can even see him doing that in the video on PCA's channel of that car.
That car right
Right
there.
there.
Yeah. There's a good example of it. Yeah.
And
Which I'm sure we'll talk about. So
Where it comes out in your successes, because you're so passionate for chasing that right shot and willing to do just about anything, it comes out, and then you see all the different angles, and you've mentioned in a number of our other videos, and we've had you on panels and stuff in PCA, and talking about letting sort of the photo breathe, and because a lot of people like to micro focus on one little part, and those shots do look cool.
Yeah, there are moments for that.
But
yeah.
but when you pull out and you let people see what's around, and you've decided to this particular angle so that the branch doesn't come out the backside of the car. Like, I've seen you do this. You mentioned it to me before, but seeing you do that in action is because you're working so hard to get that right and not have to do it in post.
Yeah, well, I'm just lazy that way. But what it is it's you are you're responsible for everything in the frame.
Yeah.
So why not look at the whole frame?
Yeah.
A lot of people just get totally sidetracked by, oh, there's that headlight. It's
Right.
like, well, what's next to what's reflecting in the headlight?
Put the car in context,
what's on
right?
the other side of the headlight? Oh, that's a really nice blue trash can in reflecting in that little chrome trim ring. What's that little flash of blue about? Oh, why don't you go move that?
Yeah,
blue
that's for
can,
YouTube
you know?
videos, not print photography.
Yeah, and look, case in point, right now we just Richard and I were just in Germany, and thank you very much. I've
gotten a preview of some of those shots. You all do not want to miss that, and that'll be in January's Panorama, the design edition.
The new design issue will be Richard and I have the opportunity to work together directly rather than me going shooting something and then like putting it on his table and he sorts through it and says, oh, look what you did, and then he tries to make that look good, But this, he has the opportunity where we go together and we really, we are like glue together and we're looking over each other's shoulders and we're like this and like that. And he'll go like, wow, what about this? And I'll go, yeah, but what about this? And then we just go back and forth. And then I look at my thing and I go, Richard was right. That's better. It's a real synergy of us coming together in a collaborative effort, which is just, he shares the same thing as I. He's down on the ground, rolling around, looking at this, it's a sight to be seen. But when you look at what it took, when people see this, I hope they understand. There's going to be a photograph in there of a small group of people that were at the end with the cars. And it's a small group of us. In comparison with, if you really were able to step back and photograph everybody that was involved in that project, it's probably 40 people. There weren't 7, 8 people.
Right.
There was probably 40 people that had to sign off on this. And I always say that 10% of what I do is photography. Everything else is logistics and negotiation. It's about, can I put the car there? Yeah. I want to put it there. And I'll come up with crazy things because why not? But if I don't ask for it, the answer is always no, right? Yeah. So you have to say, yeah, but I want to and then somebody's got to go, no, structurally that piece of whatever it is won't support that weight. Oh, but
let's just put it there for like 5 seconds.
The car's only 1,800 pounds. Oh, I thought it was like 3,800. No, it's a race car. And they're like, oh, well, okay. Then we do there's so much work involved that to pull everything together, the time, the people, the location, that's a big thing. And you mentioned something before about, when was it like when you had to photograph, when somebody hired you to do that? It's one thing to just take photographs or take pictures, as a lot of people say.
Yeah.
There's another completely different step, and that is when you're offered the opportunity to create the image. That's completely different.
Yeah.
I could take a picture of you right now, and that's taking a picture. But if Manny said, I'd like a nice portrait, well, I wouldn't do it here.
Right.
I'd think about where I want to. I would think about who Manny is. I'd think about what he wants to do with this photograph. I'd think about the right lighting. I'd think about all kinds of things. Yeah, right, exactly. Get to know him a little bit, find out his
Careful,
his
he might
best
strike
angles.
a pose.
Right, exactly. But there's all this other stuff that comes into play that. That's a big step. That's like the difference between a background singer and a lead singer. There's that movie, So Many Steps to Stardom, right? That's a big jump. Yeah. It's a big thing. You walk up to that front mic and you go like, good evening. Yeah. That's like, that can be a really scary moment. And it was, I remember Rob Ida.
Yeah.
It's on the cover.
Had a 37 Chevy that he wanted me to photograph. And I got there to the location. I'd gone through the whole location, and his father, Bob Ida, walks over to me, and he says, Michael, whatever you want to do, we'll put the car any place you want.
Mm-hmm.
You just tell us. It's your thing. That's why you're here. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm scared now. All right. But that's a big thing, that when someone does that, and then in time you realize that is why you're there. That is why you walk in and you go like, okay, I need this, I want that, or and you take, and that's how things come together and things work. You should be so prepared and you should be so ready that anything could happen, and you're still going to walk away with something. You may not walk away with what you started out with, but if you don't have that first plan, if you don't have something, an intention.
We talk about that all the time. Every time
you
we
don't
get an
have
opportunity.
intention with what you're doing, then you're lost. You've blown the exercise.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a perfect segue to, let's talk about your latest project here, Porsche Outlaws, Stuttgart Hot Rods. We're talking about the Ida vehicle there. I mean, how did this all come together? How long have you wanted to do this? What does it take, aside from taking beautiful photos that you've done? How did that all come about?
It is actually, this is a project. I've written things for Pano and various editorial things that I've done through the years, but I've never taken on a project this large. And I've done several books with motor books with Tom Cotter. Everything from Route 66 to Lincoln Highway to America's Greatest Road Trip, all these crazy books and all this stuff. But I've been the guy that, puts my visual on what he's talking about, and those two things come together and create a book. So now it's all of a sudden, okay, what do we have here? And they reached out to me and said, we're thinking about doing a book on Outlaws. And, oh, cool. And they said, well, we'd like to call on you, and we think you probably have some images, but
do you?
Right, yeah, and we'd like to rely on you for some photography. You think you could help us out? And I'm like, yeah, I think I could do that, because I am a hot rodder.
Could you hold a straight
I've
face when you
been a hot rodder since I was a kid. I love things that are hot rodded and they're not normal and they're kind of crazy. And I've go out to Bonneville and photograph out there, and I've photographed.
Of my favorite photos you've taken is out at Bonneville.
Thank you. It's have you been there yet?
I have, but not during an event. I've gone out to the Salt Flats.
Okay.
I would love to go to an event.
Were you riding
someday.
your bicycle out there?
I was not. I was just walking on my 2 feet.
So I pick up the phone and I call Cotter, my buddy, and I go, yeah, they just called me about this thing. And he goes, whoa, wait a minute. No, Michael, you should do that book. I go, what do you mean I should do that book? That should be your book. I go,
That wasn't the original pitch?
no, they just wanted me to supply photographs.
Oh.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, you need to write this book. Oh. You're a hot rodder, Michael. You know hot rods like this is right up your alley. So I went back to them and I said, hey, I'd like to throw my hat in the ring. And they're like, well, do you have any writing examples and stuff like that? I know you've done some stuff. So I sent some stuff in. They're like, okay, that's not bad. But they wanted 40,000 words, They didn't want 1,200 words, 1,800 words. They wanted 40,000 words. Luckily, my wife is still talking to me. Hi, babe. So it was quite a thing. And they tried, and it was also at the very beginning where they had this idea. But the people that give the green light on projects like this weren't convinced. They didn't think it was viable. They didn't. Yeah, it's kind of like a subculture.
Topic or you?
The topic.
Okay.
How are we going to sell that book? It's like it wasn't me. It wasn't the imagery. It wasn't. They were just like. And it took several tries. We kept going back to it and going back to it.
Sounds like the typical outlaw story. No one ever believes in the beginning.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. And then you got a knucklehead like me, an outlaw, getting involved in it too. So
what are you thinking that let's say a stock Porsche book with factory photography, stuff you see in every
Well, that's what they're used to.
Barnes and Noble discount shelf.
Yeah, that's what they're used to. History of things.
Their comfort zone.
This is the comfort zone. Everybody wants the definitive 356 book or the definitive this, and here's the truth and here's the real thing and this is the way it should be and that's everything's correct and everything's so. They came back and said we're going to green light this thing. Yeah. And I said, great. And then I said, oh God, what have I done? And that's what happened. It became a type of thing where I was just like in a total panic, like going, what?
Does somebody hold your hand? Well, you said 40,000 words. And in my head, I'm thinking, when we do a 2,500 word Panorama article, that takes a while to, craft it. You write it, rewrite it, read it, sit on it. And, 40,000 words.
So when you look at the book is laid out in a way that is chronological. We start with the beginning to now to what's going on in the future. Mm-hmm. And each segment it stands alone. It's not like a continuous story. Although if you stand back and look at 30,000 foot vantage point, it all makes sense, right? But you can read one section now and you can read another section 6 months from now and another section,
So you broke it down in like segments.
Yeah. Okay. What that made the task a little bit different, easier for me, thank God, and I will tell you right now, between my wife, Danielle, and an incredible team at Motorbooks. Motorbooks, it's published by Quarto. Motorbooks is a division of Quarto Publishing, which is a worldwide publisher. Zach Miller is like the absolute best in terms of being an editor and really being able to pull my stuff together and have it make sense. I know that I probably kept him up way too many nights. I'm sorry. Sorry, Zach. I'm really sorry. And they have an incredible team behind that, fact checkers and all kinds of people. Are there typos? Yes, there are typos. We I can't tell you how many people read through this thing, including me and everybody else. Huh?
Edition 1 will be rare.
Yeah, right exactly. Buy it now. You can. But there's always stuff like that. But in terms of a team of people coming together, again, just like everything else, encouragement, positive energy, and saying, yeah. And I'm gonna credit somebody very important right now, and that's my neighbor. She is this cool hippie chick. Sorry I called you that. She's like 80 something years old, and she was a teacher. And I was in the garage with her one day, and I was like, I was like one of those stall moments where you're like, I don't know I can't get through this. I'm not gonna. She says, Michael, you and I spend hours in the garage talking. She goes, you're the greatest storyteller. I could just listen to you forever. Do yourself a favor. Go home and put your computer on dictate and just tell the story.
Oh.
So that's what I did. And then I would go back in and correct things. Yeah. Because you never speak the way you would write, right?
Never
but
thought
get the thing out. And then go, okay, now let's push it together, mold it like a piece of clay. But that little thing there is what turned this from a floundering project into a completed project, because it really gave me that
what a great
freedom.
bit of advice.
Yeah,
to just jumpstart the process, right?
Yeah, and it just let me just kind of go in there and just do my thing, and we're getting tremendous reviews and people actually commenting on the writing, and I'm like I got to give all the credit to everybody else.
Share with our listeners, how is it being distributed? How can they get a copy? How much does it cost? All that good stuff.
Anywhere you buy a book, it's available. They can order it for you. Oh. So if you're looking for a big box place, you can get it there. If you go to your local bookstore, you can get it there. You can get it on Amazon. And they'll have it to you tomorrow. And the price fluctuates all day with them. They do a whole thing based on supply and demand. Okay. It's like, the price is back up again. Oh, people must be buying it. It's closer to Christmas now. It's like all of a sudden it starts climbing up. But then it'll dip, and they'll have little things like that. The book is $55, and it's
steel.
Yeah, it's jam packed with photography. It's jam packed with stories.
I would imagine that it's not the same as if you get your books on your Kindle normally. I mean, I would want to have the hardback.
Oh,
because
right.
The photography is principal, right?
Yeah,
Is it even available electronically?
it is. Yeah.
Why would you want to do that?
That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. I maybe I'm old.
I would never
I'm
do
pretty
that.
sure Kindle just had a color version added.
I haven't
Symbolic
seen
way.
it.
So I don't
Still,
think Kindle's where this book
You
would
totally
be, but-
want to experience this in
in a tactile.
In a tactile.
The publisher loves the fact they are blown away by the amount of independent shops, independent bookstores that are ordering it, which means that they're getting requests from people independent places in the middle
Christmas
Oh yeah.
season, holiday season gift because
Yeah.
anyone who loved one loves Porsches.
Lots of
they don't have
response.
this one.
Right.
Yeah, lots of response in the UK on it, and they're getting a lot. And we've gotten the. I can announce it. It's being transcribed into or translated into German. It'll be available in German.
Okay.
After the first of the year.
Cool.
So who knows? Might be able to go to. Maybe I can do a signing at the.
Yeah.
At
Because
the-
this sort
at
of
the
stuff
museum
should
or
be-
something.
It should be in the museum.
Yeah.
The museum store. They have
Right.
all the books there.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. So I don't know. And the toughest thing with this type of project is there are so many books. I mean, so many cars that could have been in it.
That's what I was
so
going
many
to ask you
stories.
next. Is how did you whittle down to the ones that you feature?
That would, that came down to the publisher's guidance on this a lot. I would fight for certain things and realize I was wrong.
Really?
I even got to the point where they said, "Stop writing. We have enough." And I'd be like, "Hey, I found this other car," and they'd be like, "No, we got it." And they had certain things that they're guiding in terms of like the way that they're really great at knowing what their market is.
I was going to say
and
they have
really
market
great
data
at-
that you and I don't think about, right?
From the cover
Yeah.
to the inside to what we want to do this, and I mean, they're masters at it. I'm just happy I had the opportunity to work with
I was
them.
wondering, how did they choose a cover shot?
I put a ton of them out and said, "Oh, here's what I'm thinking," and they come back and
This is what
they
we're
go
going to
like,
do.
"Here's what we got." Well, here's a story. Get this. All right, this. You can hear this here.
PCA Insider.
Yeah, exactly.
I just happened to go on Amazon and Google, and the book came up with a photograph of this cover,
Yeah.
and I hadn't seen it yet
No kidding.
really? It got there first?
because
Somebody-
they had to put something there as a placeholder,
Oh.
Wow.
and I was like, "Hello,
I see you have chosen which one we'll
do
be
you
going
think
with.
we'll have a discussion about this sometime soon?"
Wow.
But as we did some adjustments on it, there were some other things that were that we brought it back to. It was a little more. It was different, and we brought it back to more like the original image.
Okay.
So that was a struggle. But yeah, there's things that are
Yeah.
kind of interesting. But yeah, I don't know how they. And I had even recommended other things, but what about this? Well, I'm the type that I want to explore everything. Like, what about this? This is like super significant, and that's super significant. And they're like,
We need to wrap this up.
yeah, they're like, we know we put a 911 on the cover. We're not going to put VU's 356 on the cover.
Hey now,
We're
hey
gonna
now,
put-
hey
But
They know what sells.
yeah, they know what they're doing. So
How many copies do they run for the first run?
I think it's around 5,000.
5,000.
I don't know the exact number. So
Yeah.
So it's a specialty book. It's not like
yeah.
something that
Oh, yeah,
you're
yeah.
going to see for sale at Walmart.
Not yet. I hope.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It's and they're the pre-sales because a lot of people bought the book on on spec ahead of time. They were telling me that was well above the normal number. So they're happy about that, and they're very happy right now with the way things are going. So we want to keep it going that way. That would be really great.
Who handles the promotions and marketing of the book? Do you do that or do they do that?
Well, they have a PR team, and at
Okay.
the same time, I have a lot of connections.
Right. Like you'll
And-
be at Unstock tomorrow.
I'll be
with
at
the book.
Unstock
Yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah.
That was a phone call. I
Right.
was like, "Hey, what do you think?"
Yeah.
And here I am. in Norco, California, and we're going to have some fun tomorrow, and I can tell some stories, and hopefully people will enjoy the book and take it home with them, and
Me being one of them.
there you go.
So-
Yeah.
So with what we're seeing in terms of the popularity of the book, and now that you've got the process under your belt, will there be another project down the road, or is this a one-time thing?
I don't know.
Or-
You got to talk to my wife on that. That's,
I was gonna say,
You probably should let things reset a little bit
Hey, but
before.
then while you're doing this, you're still doing your regular stuff, right?
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, we're doing this, and I just went to Germany and shot that stuff, and then I came back and I photographed a hydrogen plant.
A hydrogen plant.
Yeah. Figure that out, right?
Okay.
So, I was shooting for a manufacturer, and someone from the manufacturer left there and went to some other job, and I get this phone call, and they're like, "Hey, how do you feel about hydrogen?" And I'm like,
it's
great
Toyota.
stuff.
I know you probably can't say, but I bet it's Toyota.
"Well, no, it's a hydrogen plant."
Yeah,
It's a
but I
plant.
thought you said with the manufacturer of a hydrogen plant.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were saying like a car manufacturer.
So
And
how-
they're
Trying to
showing
link
people
that.
what you can do with this
Oh.
stuff,
I
right?
see.
so can
and-
you make hydrogen sexy?
Yeah, that was my job, to make hydrogen sexy. Exactly. You didn't think we'd be talking about that, right? Yeah.
Okay.
But when and I said, I was like, why me? That was my kind of reaction. You'll see. And I walk in, and it's all metal, reflective surfaces, glass, plexiglass, all this stuff. I'm like, I know all this. And they're like,
Yeah.
I thought you get it. Yeah. So it's just a different twist on, and you think about now that's going full circle, because when I started with was very small reflective surfaces with glass in a studio. And the problem with that, with doing still life for me, was that every day was January 3rd. It was, I didn't know if it was raining, snowing. I didn't know if it was sleeting. I didn't know what it was like. It could have been 72 degrees. I wouldn't know because I'm in a dark hole all day. And now I get to go out I'm in beautiful spaces, and I deal with nature every day, and that's a cool thing. So
I've two questions for you before we get into the news and such. Equipment has changed quite a bit since the 80s, right? Film into digital. Most people ask you Nikon or Canon, but I think at your level, you're talking about Hasselblad and Leica and all that stuff. Share with those that are listening that may want to get into photography. How important is the equipment? How much money initially do you need to spend? Do you need to go Leica? Do you need to go Hasselblad? Or can you do a consumer grade Nikon or Canon?
And what's more important, the camera or the lens?
Yeah. Man, we got another hour to
I'm
take here.
trying to make myself
Just
see
yeah.
well, I will tell you this. It doesn't matter.
my head exploding.
I know people are just like, well, what did he just say? Every manufacturer right now is going, oh my God, what did he just say? Until things happen, okay? The most important thing is your eye.
Yeah.
The camera is just a black box or a silver box or a gray box that allows you to show the world how you see things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great tool. There are many tools out there. But the thing that you have to train and the thing that you have to work with every day is your eye. I've trained my eye every day, and I look at things differently all the time. I just showed you the cover for the new design issue, right?
Yeah,
So you weren't supposed to see that, but it came through to me. It's like, here it is. This is great. And I went through it and I marked up 13, 14 things that needed to be changed and corrected and but that's what happens when your eye, and I spoke before about being responsible for everything that's in the lens, everything that's in the frame, right? So that's the most important thing. Then you take this camera, whether it's your iPhone or whatever it is, and get that thing to do what you need it to do. Now, there are all different types of levels of what we appreciate, right? It's like speakers. If you can't hear the difference between a two-way system and a four-way system, you should just buy the two-way system.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yep.
Right?
Oh, that's a good
If you can't hear the
analogy. Yeah.
difference, why spend the money, right? A long time ago, I could hear I'd like an 8-way system, but as time goes on.
Yeah.
But so with the camera stuff, things change. Things have changed drastically from film going into digital. I had some setups with, everybody knows I shot a lot with Canon through the years, but before that I was shooting Mamiya, I was shooting Hasselblad in the studio, 4x5, 2.25, 6x7, that sort of thing. But if you go to a 35 millimeter, you're either a Ford guy or a Chevy guy, which means you're either a Nikon guy or you're a Canon guy.
Right,
so I became a Canon guy, and I was Canon all the time, right? Yeah. And then I started to get frustrated with my end results a little bit as my eye got more and more dynamic with my requests of what I really wanted to. It was like, I can see that it's right there, but I can't reproduce it. So in the last few years, I made the transition into medium format with the Hasselblad X system.
Wow.
And we were just having a conversation the other day that with some of this really low light things that I'm doing now, if we were trying to use a different system, we wouldn't have all that information that we have now. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you that I am just completely blown away about the color grading. Now it's all about the color grading of the sensor, right? Mm-hmm. What does it look like when you take that image and it just comes out of the camera? What's the base thing that you're dealing with? And it's just luscious. Mm-hmm. So I do, but I still use a combination of 5 different cameras when I'm on a shoot. I use 2 Canon bodies, 2 Hasselblad bodies, and a small Canon body, because you have to have, again, the right tool for the job, and that job requires, I need this lens, I need that lens, I need this lens. So if I'm on a shoot, rather than going, let me switch, I can just go boom, 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 hand me that, boom, and go and keep working.
And what I find is it also depends on how you want to have fun at that particular event, because most recently my cousin got married. She asked me to shoot the tea ceremony, which was on a Saturday.
That was too nerve-wracking for me. I couldn't do that.
And then on Sunday was the wedding, but she had a pro. Mm-hmm. So most people were like, they saw me shooting the tea ceremony, and then when I was there later the next day for the main wedding, they're like, "Where's all your camera equipment?" I'm like, "I'm off duty." But what I did try to do that was fun was, the cameras on our cell phones now, my iPhone. I made it a game for myself to say, can I take decent photos for this wedding with my phone? And it was just kind of fun. It was different. And then I really came to go, man, shooting with an SLR is just way better than with an iPhone. Yeah. But my need was different that day versus the day before.
But
but they're capable.
Oh my God, I can't. So if you get like a Pro Max where you can shoot raw, I mean, it's been in these situations. I've been in situations where I'd go like, there's one tool in my case that will do this. It's in my back pocket,
especially in low light.
Low light, and put it on raw.
Yeah,
and you have a lot more information, and you can actually print it and do it.
There you go.
Certain people do that all the time.
Well, let me, if you don't mind, if I could remind folks to be sure to head over to PCA.org and sign up for PCA's newsletters. We have performance news, e-brake news, and Mart Fresh news. All 3, all free. And let's get into a few Porsche news items.
That on your run of show is not correct.
Oh.
Yeah, that's from 2 weeks ago.
Oh, am I looking at the wrong one?
No, I just didn't update that.
Oh.
But there was 2 items.
Okay.
It's been a long
I didn't want you to repeat news that we already had, but the 2 pieces of news was that Porsche announced 2 more new models for the Taycan line, the 4 and the GTS. I'll talk about the GTS on the next podcast, the first drive we had on it. But the GTS is the only one with the Sport Turismo body style.
Oh.
Which I didn't realize that. And they're taking it up to 690 horsepower.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's no lacking in horsepower. And, of course, the 4 almost seems anticlimactic when the GTS is announced. Yeah. I wonder if they do that on purpose sometimes for these cars. But the GTS, I don't think they have any problem selling that car. That's that's a very popular model, be it Taycan or be it a Cayman, whatever. GTS guaranteed to sell.
And please buy the Sport Turismo so they'll start offering it in other body styles.
Yeah, they throttle it back a little bit.
We say that all the time.
I know, but one day I'll be able to afford one
We
used.
say that all the time. Please make a wagon.
Turismo.
and then people don't. They make them and no one buys them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm with you.
agree, that's what happens.
I actually bought a wagon back in the day. Right? I had an E46 wagon,
Yeah,
and so,
Yeah,
but it's still not enough to keep them around.
I'm being selfish here. I want 5-10 years down the line, I want to buy one.
Oh, that you
used.
can buy one that someone bought
Exactly.
recently.
Well, no,
Right.
for everyone that complains that Porsche is not making this, you gotta speak where you put the money where your mouth is.
Yeah,
And,
for sure.
I was told that they sold more Cayenne Turbo GTs than Boxsters. Think
Whoa,
about that.
that's kinda crazy,
Yeah.
yeah.
For real?
That's what I was told.
In my article, I couldn't even figure out what it was for, but man, except for like a 4th or 5th car to take to the mountain home.
But they never underestimate
popular.
the buying power of Porsche buyers and what they're looking for. The other piece of news is the last Dakar left the production line. I'm sure you probably saw photos of it. It's
Was that the
it reminded me of the Mark Donahue Sunoco colors. Yeah, we went through Sunderwunsch.
Sunderwunsch, right?
And our friend who did the yellow Speedster at Monterey, that was the 993 Speedster,
The designer?
the designer.
Liquid Nitrati.
Yes.
Liquid
He also did this Dakar.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, it's pretty wild looking.
No wonder he has his own name badge, I think, an employee ID card to get into anywhere he wants at Porsche.
The yellow is a little bit more like Bahama yellow, though, in comparison to like
You
the
do realize I'm
Donahue.
I was about
colorblind,
to
right?
say, you do know he's colorblind, right?
I know you're colorblind.
You're
and
about to
that's-
have a
and that's
conversation with me. I'm about to start to get glazed
for the
over.
viewers. For the viewers, but,
Yeah.
it's not. Yeah, it's a little more. It's a little more orangey. The press photos that I saw seem a little more orangey rather than the yellow from the Donahue. So it's just my opinion. I don't know. Maybe it's just blue lenses.
Just my opinion, man.
Actually, now that you bring that up, because I was talking to Damon, your blue lenses. You wear blue lens glasses all the time. It's like your signature, but is that
Yeah.
something that helps you with seeing things, or you just think it looks cool and you gets you that gig?
It was a guy in New York that was making my glasses, and he goes, I just gotta do this thing. Just go with me on this, and and I'm like, okay, try it. He says, if it doesn't work, we'll just go back to a regular lens. And he popped them in. I was like, oh, that's cool. And now it has become like a signature. If I walk through a place with like regular glasses on,
Do you
nobody
own a
knows
pair
who-
that doesn't have blue tint?
I do. And people they won't recognize me.
I
But-
only know you with blue tint.
And a lot of times I'm walking into places and I'm like, oh, I'll be the guy with the blue lenses and his glasses. And instead of like every other gray-haired guy out there, right? It's like the one definitive thing, but it's just I don't even notice it when it's on. I don't notice it at
But
all.
when you're photographing, do you look through the blue lens, or do you lift them up and just go straight to the eye?
That's going to be my next book, Life Through the Blue Lens.
Yeah,
Wow.
I
No,
only
it's
take
blue.
5%.
Yeah, blue lens.
You look through the blue lens,
Yeah.
and then when you go editing, you
Blue
still
lens.
look through the blue lens.
Yeah, so it's consistent all the way through.
Okay, and then what we see in the book is what
Consistently
is it are we seeing what you see, or are we seeing a lighter
I have
version?
no idea. I might see exactly what Manny sees, Could be.
See, I'm with Jay Leno. That's why I rarely wear sunglasses unless it's really so bright it hurts my eyes.
There you go.
Because I would be constantly going, what's it look like now? What's it look like now?
Right, yeah.
You say that all the time. The other day, looking at that red Macan, you're like, what color red is that?
Because I never want to say out loud what color I think it is. Because then people look at me and go, it's not even red, it's orange.
Yeah. And they
so-
were like, yeah.
So someone just tried.
Yeah, it was
tinted,
just
you
like a
liked it,
wacky
and-
thing. And I was like, okay. And my wife was like, that's cool.
And now when you order new glasses, you're just like, throw a blue tint on it for me.
Yeah.
You're like,
In
"Okay,
fact,
sir."
it's weird because I've had to somebody will do it and I'll go back and I go, it's not right.
It's too dark.
It'll
or
be
too
too light
Oh,
or
too
too,
light, yeah.
and I'll go, no, and I'll bring in a photograph and they go, oh, I could do that.
Yeah.
So there's like a consistent thing.
Well, we
about
should
it.
get into the sunglass business and you can have a Porsche design.
Well, you
Allan
know,
Ross
you probably
edition.
didn't know, but I'm also an optician, and I used to tint glasses, so I know how to make them lighter. And
My
darker.
brother was
yeah.
an optician.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. So
Yeah. How
All
much?
right.
What's the percentage you think they're using?
I would say that's probably only 10%.
Only 10%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I could adjust it however you like it. So.
There you go. I didn't know you were an optician. There you go.
As the future is Costco.
Right.
In an hour, your glasses will be ready.
No wonder you were so concerned when I had that eye thing at
Yes,
at
exactly.
Works years ago.
Exactly. Well, let's quick updates on PCA events. We've got Works Reunion Amelia Island coming up March 7th, so look for the news for registration for that. We have Treffin Homestead, which is April 30th through May 4th in Hot Springs, Virginia. Registration for that will open February 5th.
It will sell out very quickly.
It will sell out. We say this all the time with the Treffin land programs. Just make sure you know that you want to go, understand all the options that are available, and when registration opens, be there, be quick, log in, check out as quickly as possible so that you secure your spot. Porsche Parade Oklahoma, we've talked about how cool Oklahoma City is. We're going to be there July 6th through 12th, and in first quarter of next year we'll start pushing all the information out on how you can get registered for that. Treffin at Sea, the 70th anniversary cruise, will be sailing August 30th through September 6th, and we just crossed over 800 people that will be attending on that cruise, and we're actually looking forward to seeing some of our European Porsche Club members that have heard about Treffin at Sea, and some of them will be coming over and joining us, so it should be pretty cool. You want to talk about videos that we recently dropped?
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. We released the Project 964 video. And then, a week later, we released a 991.1 oil change video, but then a 964 Cabriolet video. And I'm kind of surprised to say that the 964 Cabriolet video is doing better. And they're both modified 964s, but
You mean it beat an oil change?
Yeah, on
video.
views,
I'm not surprised. I think the oil change is very
the 964 cab has more views than Project 964.
The 964 cab has more
views.
I think it was the presenter's fault.
Oh, I know, right? Exactly.
He skewed the results.
I know, I skewed the results. So, I think I picked a better title and a thumbnail for the cab, so I'll do that because I like coupes. Come on, peoples. But you should buy a cab because they're a lot cheaper than coupes.
If you haven't seen that video, it seemed like you really did enjoy that drive.
Yeah, I can't, 2 decades I probably held, maybe not 2 decades, almost 2 decades I held a prejudice against 964 cabs, or really any Cabriolet 911, sorry, Vu, because I just love coupes. And
suicide.
Yeah, right? And then I was thinking as well, if you modify a cab, how can it handle it when it's, a flexi flyer sort of thing? So I have I know somebody, a friend who's in South Carolina, lives near some great roads, and we were having a meeting about some videos we were doing. So we figured we're out there. I'm going to go drive this cab, and we went to the Blue Ridge Parkway. I rode over there and then drove it at the Blue Ridge, and I was pretty blown away at how good 964 cabs are, and how wrong I was about them. They drive almost as well as the coupe, and I don't think you'd be able to tell the difference unless you drove them back to back. And even then, you might not be able to tell. So, 964 Cabriolet, give one a test drive. If you haven't, they're cheaper and a great entry into Porsche.
I was going to say this is a slightly modified 964.
Yeah, this one is slightly modified, lowered.
Got a great stance on it. It makes you want to buy a 964 Cabriolet.
It looked incredible.
Modified the bumper. It did a really nice, tasteful
shaved bumper,
job.
exhaust, steering wheel, tartan seats, plaid. What did I say? Tartan seats, and just a really well put together car. Really, no big engine mods. Just a cruiser, but.
I have an uncle in Northern Virginia who has that same white Cabriolet 964 that's been in his garage because it has a leaky motor. It's probably been in his garage since, I don't want to say late 2000s.
Ooh.
And after you did you released the video, I sent it to him. I said, Uncle, your car could be like this car. Yeah. So hopefully it rejuvenates his want to he put the car back on the road.
Yeah, but really, and somebody commented, that, we're just trying to pump up the values of 964 cabs. Well, quite the opposite. It's the cheapest way into 964 ownership. So why not give it a try?
If we were doing that, I
I
would
was
try to
about to
pump
say,
up the value of Tiptronic 9A7.1 Boxers.
Yeah.
Or 72 914 in parts.
Right. Yeah. So give those a try. Don't discount them. Drive them before you make a judgment. And then we mentioned the other video is a 991.1 Carrera and Carrera S basically oil change. We did it on the Cabriolet. The process is a little different because of how the Cabriolet top and tonneau cover, I guess, raises and lowers. And that sort of gets in the way of filling up the oil. You need like a really long
But still a
spout.
pretty straightforward process.
Straightforward process. You'll save hundreds of dollars, and you can probably do it yourself.
Or you can decide, you know what? I'll pay the
Or that.
the
Yeah.
dealer tech
And you'll
or
know what they'll-
Indie tech to do it for me.
Yeah, you'll know what they'll be doing. And I actually liked seeing for the first time. I hadn't seen, I don't want to say plastic, but whatever the
That's what it is, yeah.
the composite
Yeah.
bottom of the oil pan.
Yeah. And I think, was there another car that we did an oil change on that people can expect?
So 987.1.
987.1. So if you guys are wondering how to change oil on that, that'll be
Even simpler, but still great
Yeah.
resource material.
Yeah.
If
Exactly.
you're doing it for the first time, much like I'm doing first time things on my 356, it's cool to see something being done.
I'm sure
and
we
just-
all YouTube, when we want to see
Yeah.
what level of difficulty it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I
Makes
do
sense.
this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of, can you do it? If you're wondering whether or not you'd be competitive racing, but you might not have a race car, try PCASimRacing.com. Head over there. You can, with a pretty simple setup, start racing with other PCA members around famous tracks, and they teach you how to do everything. And as you progress, you can get into full sim rigs and goggles and VR. They also have, I don't want to say tournaments, but they have series races. And so anyways,
Do they
check
have little sim photographers there too?
little Michael Allan Ross. We should add that.
Put a little
bobbleheads.
pixelated.
There you go.
Right. Yeah.
Cross there.
That idea was born here, sir.
There you
so
go.
we
There
get
you
a
go.
percentage.
There you go.
Speaking of getting a percentage, perhaps you might want to buy some PCI Insider merch. Just head over to PCAWebstore.org. We have bottles, mugs, T-shirts, and such. But if you're looking for something free and you still want to show your PCA Insider how proud you are as being a listener, we would love to send you some decals. Just send your information to podcast@pca.org. Give us your address and we'll send it out to you. Anything else before we wrap up this one?
No, it was a great learning so much more about. I on purpose didn't look up your background because I wanted to be surprised.
I learned a lot.
Where did you find this stuff out? I mean, that's what I'm really concerned.
FBI.
We have both
Again?
have wives that work for the government.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. Those guys again. Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. And again, if you aren't currently a PCA member, grab your VIN, head over to PCA.org and sign up. And then for those of you that are looking for your Porsche that you want to put on your driveway or maybe in your garage, we have the test drive program. Again, PCA.org. Remember to follow our podcast Instagram page, behind the scenes photos and videos, Porsche Club Insider, all one word. As always, if you'd like to send us a message at podcast@pca.org, but we really would appreciate if you would like, comment, and subscribe. And I think we can share with folks that our 100,000 subscriber plaque is in the mail to us, and we can't wait to unbox it and share it with you soon. So until next time, stay safe, and we'll catch you down the road.